Hello and welcome to SAP Learning Academy and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial today I will be covering about the InfoSource, like all the basics of InfoSource and when and where you have to use the InfoSource. So let's welcome to this tutorial, and I will be covering the basics into three scenarios. Means I will be explaining about the uses of InfoSource in three scenarios. The first scenario is where you don't have any info source, meaning that data flow without an info source. And next scenario is data flow with one info source, and third one is data flow with two info sources. So here the data flow, I mean that the transformation between the source and target. So I will be giving you in detail about all these three scenarios. So let's begin with the first scenario. So in the first scenario, we are talking about the data flow without an info source. So like in this picture, you can see that we did not use any info source, meaning that just we have a direct transformation between source and the target. Here target is the info provider name. And here if you do not use any info source and if you load the data, the loading will be much faster because you don't have any more layers in between. But when we're going to have multiple source system, then how can you do that? Suppose you're going to create multiple source system and you want to read from the multiple source system into one provider or multiple providers, then your info source comes into picture. So let's go into the next scenario. So this is interesting here. And data flow with one info source, like you can see in this picture that you have an info source in between and you are reading from two identical data source or maybe not identical, and you are reading that two sources with two different transformation and putting into one info source, and from there actually you are loading into the info provider. So you have only one transformation between the info provider and the info source. So here's the what is the good thing about it, because whenever you have a scenario like that, you need to read data from multiple source system and you need to put the data into one provider, so where you have to use info source. And the good thing is that, so if you want to change any business rules, then you can change the logic in between info source and the info provider in this transformation. If you change the logic here, then this will be applied in both the cases, both the data sources. So that's the actual use of info source. Now we are going into more complex part, that is the use of two info sources. So this is recommended by SAP, by which actually you have to do this development. So here in this scenario you can see that we have used two info sources, like here in the bottom and here in this part. So here in this case we are not only reading from two data sources, but we are actually just feeding the data in two providers. Like you can see this provider and this provider, so there are two providers. So in this case you are actually reading from multiple source system and you are feeding the data in multiple providers. And the good part about is that you can see the transformation between two info sources, and this is the central transformation, which will be, if you change any kinds of logic or rules, so it will be applied in both the cases. So this transformation is your basic and the main transformation which actually needed if you want to change any kind of rules. So that's about the info source. I believe you have got some information about it, and thank you for watching. And if you have any question about the tutorial, you can write in the below comment box. I'll be happy to answer those. And don't forget to subscribe our channel to SAP Learning Academy. And thank you for watching. And also please look into the other tutorial. I have given the links in the below description. Thank you again.